Hello my awesome punks and welcome. My name is Heroine Bob and today I'm going to say some shit about dysautonomia testing. Lots of people in the world know that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. However, October is also Dysautonomia Awareness Month. And the reason why most people don't know about it is because dysautonomia is a rare neurological disorder. So if it's rare, not a whole lot of people have it, but a whole lot of people get breast cancer. So I decided for Dysautonomia Awareness Month to one, have this creepy guy stare at you guys the entire time I'm doing this. And two, I wanted to talk about the actual testing process for being tested for dysautonomia. I have been diagnosed with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, dysautonomia, which is commonly referred to as POTS. If you guys have not watched the video, I talk about my health. I'll put a description down below if you want to watch a 45-minute long video where I cry a bit and I talk about pretty much finally having an answer for all the things that have been wrong with me pretty much my whole life. But since I have made that video and told a lot of my friends and family members about my diagnosis with POTS, I have had a few people say, "Hey, my friend has very similar problems. Well, who was your doctor? Who was your neurologist that diagnosed you? Because I think maybe they have what you have and they should get tested." Which, if they do have what I have, I feel that sucks because this sucks. And it would be great if they find out what's wrong. But I just want to say that it's not common. It's rare in part because it's not something most people have. And it's also rare because a lot of people get misdiagnosed, as in not misdiagnosed with dysautonomia, but misdiagnosed like I was misdiagnosed. Like I was misdiagnosed with an irregular heartbeat and a heart arrhythmia and heart murmurs. And that I have those things, but they're not standalone things. I have those things because I have POTS dysautonomia. So a lot of times people get misdiagnosed with other stuff that are actually all symptoms from having dysautonomia. So being tested for dysautonomia was pretty much like the last stop. I've been in and out of the hospital my whole life, like 3 to 4 times a year, where my body just kind of poops out on me. Just says, "No, I'm done. You need to go to the emergency room. We need to get some fluid and we need to have a whole bunch of tests done, and you just are going to be miserable for like the next 5, 6, 10 hours that you're here in the ER, and then you're just magically going to be better." That was pretty much the last couple decades. Pretty much my whole life. My whole life. Since I've had this happen, I wanted to maybe describe what the testing is. I know this is going to already probably be a long video and talk about the testing because I wasn't actually very well prepared for the testing when I had it done. So for those of you who maybe want to get tested for dysautonomia, or it has been recommended to be tested for dysautonomia, if you do not live in the Hampton Roads, Virginia area, you're going to have to probably do some travel because there are not very many doctors, neurologists that specialize in dysautonomia. And in addition, there are not very many testing centers for it either. So if you don't live where it's close to you, you're probably going to have to do some travel. I'm very fortunate, whereas that I do live in Richmond, Virginia. I did only have to travel about 2 hours to do the testing. And my doctor was Dr. Kamali. And I had 3 days of tests, guys. It wasn't like, ooh, look, you go in the hospital for one test. I went to 2 different hospitals over 3 days for testing. The first day of tests, and I'm going to break it up into the different days. So the first day of tests were done at the heart hospital because that's where the neurology department was. And the guy who, I don't remember his name, but he was wonderful. He did super corny dad jokes the entire time. He was just really nice and really did his best to try to make you feel as comfortable as possible. He does that because he had to do some not so pleasant things to me at all. So the first thing is I go to this guy. He's like, he explains to me everything that he's going to do for about 30 minutes prior to doing anything. He's like, I want you to know what I'm doing. I want you to know why I'm doing it. So that way it's not a surprise when I strap you down to this table. Because that's what he had to do. I had to lay on a very long, flat medical table, and he strapped me into the table. As in, like, he strapped my body into the table. It's not like he strapped my hands down and my neck down and he made it so I couldn't move. It wasn't like that kind of bondage strapping. It was, he basically strapped me down so that way when the table tilted up, because while I was laying flat, the table had the ability to tilt all the way up and all the way back. So that way when he tilted me all the way up, I wouldn't go bloop outside of the table. So that's why he strapped me down. So before he started doing the tilt table tests, he attached a whole bunch of, monitors to me. He attached a blood pressure monitor to my finger and a blood pressure monitor to my arm. The regular blood pressure cuff that you're used to at your doctor's office. So that way he could get 2 blood pressure readings. And of course mine, being the way I am, it was already pretty elevated because, I'm a little freaked out because I'm strapped to a table, and then also, like, I already wasn't feeling very good. I think I was just having a bad episode day that day, so it was already elevated. And so he straps me down, he gets all those all those attached, and then he starts, like, cleaning off some spots on my body with alcohol so he can attach some diodes. Now what he does is, there were several parts to me being strapped to this table. One part was the tilt table test, like measuring how well my body adjusted to being upright versus laying down. Like, did it actually adjust itself the way it's supposed to when you're upright, and did it go back down to the way it was supposed to be when you lay down? Obviously, mine did not do that, which is part of why I'm dysautonomia. Another part of the test was a lot of breathing. So it was, if you breathe like really deep breaths in, really deep breaths out, you're supposed to, like, your heart and your pulse, like your pulse and your blood pressure are all supposed to do things. And especially in your oxygen level, like, all those are supposed to change if you have a normal body. If you don't have POTS, how does that react normally? So I had to, like, breathe in for 8 seconds and then breathe out for 8 seconds and keep this little doodad up in the air. That was another part of it. And then the part that was unpleasant is that after he attached these little diodes to the areas he cleaned with alcohol, he filled those with the chemical that makes you sweat. So the chemical that your body naturally produces that tells you, hey, you need to be sweating. Those diodes got filled with that, and then a low electrical current was run through them. So instead of, like, taking that fluid, that hormone or chemical, whatever you want to call it, and injecting it, 144 times to do this test to see if your body sweats, because that's something else my body isn't very good at, is sweating, which is part of why I was in there for testing. Instead of, like, poking me a whole bunch of time with needles, they just slightly electrocute me with the chemical. So that didn't feel very good. It actually it kind of felt like a light burn. Like, it was a light burning sensation. So I did that a few times, and that was pretty much that first, 3-hour session of testing. All those tests that I just described took about 3 hours to do. And because he did them multiple times for different things, or to test for those different things. And then after he unstrapped me from the table, I had myself a little breakdown, because again, it's like, I asked him, I was like, hey, did any of those tests do anything? Because, of course, that was uncomfortable as hell, and I wanted to see if it was worth going through all that mess. And he was like, I am not the neurologist. I unfortunately cannot tell you that. I can, however, tell you that this set of testing was very beneficial to you. And, like, I kind of cried and broke down a little bit, and, like, I'm getting a little upset now, just because, like, again, been dealing with this my whole life, and it was, like, a really big deal that I was gonna have, like, this was it for me. If I didn't get anything from this 3 days of testing, if I found out that I did not have dysautonomia, that was it. It was just my body's messed up. I don't know what's wrong. So after I got off the table, I then went into another room in the same neurologist's office, and they had to take 3 biopsies from my leg. Now, they took 3 very tiny circular biopsies, probably about like the size of the end of this pen here. So they took 3 chunks of skin out, and they took 3 chunks of skin out. That doesn't sound that bad. Like, they took 3 chunks of skin out. But it's not just like the very top layer of skin. It's not like they shaved like a layer of skin off. It's like they dug deep. They dug deep. So like, in addition to it being like around this side, this diameter, it was also like that deep. It went all the way down to where the subcutaneous fat is. So they took all 3 layers of dermis out. And then to biopsy. Now, another thing that's interesting about people who have dysautonomia is that they have a tendency to not be responsive to nerve blocks. So nerve blocks like Novocaine, lidocaine, stuff that they like, Novocaine and lidocaine like don't work. So they injected, I think it was lidocaine, into my legs to numb the area where they were going to take the biopsy, because sure, someone cutting a nice sized hole out of your leg 3 different times. They cut a hole in my thigh, 2 places in my thigh, my upper thigh and closer to my knee, and then they took one out closer to my ankle. So if nerve blocks don't work very well, I was like, great, okay, you're going to inject me 3 times with this needle, which felt awful, by the way. And then it's not going to work. So I'm just going to be stabbed 6 times, and I'm going to have to feel 3 of them. Or I'm going to have to feel all 6 of them instead of just the 3. But fortunately, because they are a dysautonomia testing center, they realized that nerve blocks don't work very well on people with dysautonomia. So they injected me, they waited a minute, the lady came in and took the chunks out of my leg, which was awesome and unexpected, and I was very grateful for it, because legitimately, after like they were putting all the little chunks of skin into the little testy tubes, I got feeling back in my leg, and that was not good. That did not feel good at all. So the 3 biopsy sites, they took a while to heal. But they stopped hurting after about the 2nd or 3rd day. And fortunately, again, because I just have dysautonomia, I actually don't have feeling from like my calf down. So I don't actually feel my legs most of the time. Like the large nerves work that allow me to move my muscles and my feet and stuff, but like the ones that cause sensation, I don't have feeling there. So the one down by my foot actually didn't hurt at all, but the ones up here on my thigh did not feel nummy. And the reason why they do the 3 biopsy sites is because they're wanting to test and count and see how many nerves you have in your skin. They want to see how many nerves are there, because dysautonomia affects the small nerves. And they did find out that I have sensory neuropathy, which means like my nerves aren't regenerating or aren't responding at all, and they just don't do things. And it's from dysautonomia. So I'm never, unless my dysautonomia gets better, which it is not, by the way, I'm going to continue not having feeling here. Like this pretty much just feels like this part of my hands are asleep the whole time. And then I'm going to continue to not have feeling in my feet. So there's that. So that was the first day of testing. I got slightly electrocuted and I got chunks cut out of me. And then I got strapped to a table and tilted up and down. So that was the first day of testing. Everybody the people at the Sentara Heart Hospital were all very wonderful. Everybody in this neurologist office understood how sensitive this was. They understood how intensive this was, and they were all very kind. They all did everything they could to make us as comfortable as, my mom went with me on this day. I recommend definitely that you take someone who makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, who makes you feel safe, to go with you for the testing, because it is, again, very painful and it's rough. It's not easy. Sorry. And so the next day of testing, I had to go to a different hospital to have blood drawn. Now, what was interesting about this is that they ordered for me to have a diabetes test, which is a 3-hour glucose test. Now, for those of you who are ladies out there, if you ever decide to have a baby, you're going to have to take this test every time you have a baby. This is how they test for gestational diabetes. So they were not testing me for gestational, I can't say this word. They were testing me for regular diabetes. They were making sure I did not have regular diabetes, because if you have diabetes, you could also have a lot of the conditions that I do, like with the heart and the blood pressure and the not sweating, and diabetes are bad. So they can cause a lot of problems too. So they were just ruling that out. They were making sure I didn't have diabetes because that could cause some of my problems. I don't have diabetes, by the way. And that was interesting in the fact that, again, I couldn't eat. My appointment was at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I couldn't eat from midnight the night before until whenever the test was done. I got no food. And I get hangry super easy. So I get there at like 7:30 because I was like, I'm going to be there early because I want to get in there. So me and like 10 other people were there at 7:30 because we all apparently had 8 o'clock appointments. And so I didn't actually go back in to have the first like control thing of blood drawn until 9 o'clock. I was not happy. So I get in there, and then there was a big kerfuffle with my insurance. Oh, also, by the way, guys, your insurance is probably not going to cover dysautonomia testing either. It's actually pretty expensive, and unless you are actually diagnosed with dysautonomia, it's considered investigatory and not conditional or whatever. I'm not in the medical profession, so I don't know how things are coded, but it's considered investigatory and not treatment. So until you're actually diagnosed, it's considered an investigation, but after you're diagnosed, then all the tests after that are considered like regular treatment tests. Anyway, that's a very expensive set of tests. I gotta tell you, it's expensive. So I go in there at 9 o'clock, I have the first control set drawn, and then they make you drink this like super ridiculously sweet orange drink, or some places have other flavors. I only got the choice of orange drink, so I got some orange drink, and then they make you wait for an hour, and then they make you come back, and then they make you they draw blood again. Excuse me, I burped there. That was rude. So they make you have blood taken again, and then they send you on your way for another hour, and then you got to come back in an hour, and then they draw your blood again, and then they send you away. And then you come back, and then they draw your blood for a final time, and they're trying to see if your body normalizes itself. Like if your blood sugar levels get really, get high, but don't get too high. And then, slowly go down at, a nice normal rate. Mine did that, so great. What was really funny is, again, this test is normally for women who are pregnant, and I'm not pregnant. So people kept asking me when the baby was due, and what I wanted, if it was boy or girl, and I'm like, I'm not pregnant. I'm being tested for something else. I just have to have the diabetes test. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, do I look pregnant? Am I having a fat day? I don't understand. But I was just like, whatever. And then it was really nice outside, and I was getting tired of sitting in the uncomfortable waiting room chair, so I ended up just laying outside watching Twitch on my phone. I think somebody thought I was a distressed teen or something. Because I had this really nice old lady ask me, I was like, dear, do you have a ride home? Are you waiting for someone? Are you safe? And I was like, yes, I'm fine. I'm just waiting to go have this lady stab me again so I can get more blood taken out. So lady, thank you for offering and asking, but yes, I'm fine. It's very kind of you. So my appointment was at 8. I didn't leave the actual hospital until 12:30, 1 o'clock. And so that was the second day of testing. They took about 12 vials of blood total, so it was 3 each time, 3 for the control, 3 for the first hour, 3 for the second hour, and 3 for the third hour. So it was 12 total vials of blood. And then the third day of testing was the worst day of testing. Now, when Dr. Kamali told me about the test, or initially described the test to me, I was like, yeah, sure, fine, no worries, whatever. And Machine tells me that the doctor told me about the second half of this testing. I apparently was not paying enough attention because I didn't remember him telling me about it. Or I probably would have been I would have felt a little bit better about the testing because I would have been prepared. But the whole second half of the third day of testing was a complete surprise to me, and it was an unpleasant one. So what I remember from that initial meeting was, okay, we're going to shock you. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can handle being shocked a little bit. I mean, who hasn't been tasered by your friends? Or like shocked yourself with a dog shock collar just to see what it felt like. I'm like, I can handle that. And like, again, low electrical current on the first day. It just felt like a slight burning sensation. I'll be fine. No big deal. I was so wrong. Okay. So the first part of the test was they were going to attach, again, diodes to one side of my body to register, you know, how fast the electrical current travels from what looked like a cattle prod to the diode and see how fast, like, the nerves actually transmitted the signal. Awesome. Well, so they put the diodes all along the right side of my body, and Dr. Kamali's got the cattle prod, right? It looks like a cattle prod, guys. I'm just going to call it a cattle prod. I don't know what the technical term is for the thing that electrocutes you at the doctor's office. But they take the cattle prod, and he, like, touches my foot in a couple places, my ankle in a couple places, my leg in a couple places, my thigh in a couple places, my arms in a couple places, my back in a couple places. Like, it's pretty much the entire right side of my body is just getting uncomfortable. It's unbelievably uncomfortable. Now, of course, because I don't have a whole lot of feeling below my calf, like, the foot where he started wasn't that bad. Like, it was just like, oh, look, my foot's kind of twitching. That's cool. And then, oh, sorry, guys, I got dizzy. That's also something that happens when you have dysautonomia. You just get randomly dizzy. It's not fun. Alright, so that wasn't a big deal. I'm thinking I'm done now, right? I'm thinking, okay, well, he just shocked me. I'm done. No. No. Oh, hell no, I was not done. So I still have the same diodes on me, and he was like, okay, now I'm going to have to do this. And instead of, like, the little tasery cattle prod, it was a needle. It was, no joke, a needle as long as this zip tie. This is a 6-inch long zip tie, right? About, like, about that thick too. About that, probably maybe half that thick. But imagine a needle this big, right? This is the needle. He stabs me with it. Not once, not twice, but everywhere he touched the cattle prod to electrocute me with in the first set of that testing, he stabbed me with the second half of that testing. And the needle also has a low electrical current through it as well. And if it's not bad enough to be stabbed with a 6-inch long needle with a slight electrical current through it, he makes you move the body part with the needle inserted. Think about that for a second. Just think about having this, like, in your hand. Okay, imagine this is a needle in your hand, and then him making you do this with it inside of the muscle, slowly electrocuting you, slightly electrocuting you, and now it's just, oh my god, it was just, I'm like getting, I can't even speak right now because I'm thinking about it. It was in the top 5 of the greatest pain I have ever felt in my entire life. I was just bawling, just uncontrollable, crying, and I'm super grateful that my mom did not go with me for that testing because she probably would have passed out. Dr. Kamali actually asked me twice, he's like, do you want me to continue? Because I don't think he was prepared for just how how I was reacting, because it was just, it felt like I was being tortured. Like, I would definitely not make it being tortured. I could not be a spy. I would be the worst spy ever. And I was like, yes, finish it. I was like, I don't want to go through this again. I want to make sure my testing is done. This is important. Do it. And machine was like, everybody looked as distressed as I was making them distressed. I was making machine distressed. I was making the doctor distressed by how I was reacting because it hurt so bad. So for anyone who wants to get tested for dysautonomia, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt a lot. And it's gonna be unbelievably stressful for you and your body, which is why I feel like you need to have someone who can drive you, go to the appointments with you, and you need to have someone who's like your safe place to go with you. Because it was not cool. Oh my god. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, but that was awful. Even my feet hurt. That was the first time I've actually really felt anything in my feet for a long time. So, good news, my large nerves work. Bad news is I never want to... That was awful. I never want to do that again. But I wanted, again, this is why I wanted to make this video, is because while most doctors are excellent about telling you about what they're going to do before they're going to do it, and explain everything to you, I was not prepared for that second half of that electrocuting test. Electrolysis? It's not electrolysis. Electrolysis removed hair. I was not ready for the second part of the third day of testing with the needle. I was not at all. And then after that happened, I had to go and get more blood drawn. What ended up happening is that when I had the diabetes test, they did not complete the testing. They only did the diabetes test. They didn't do all the other blood draws they were supposed to do. So if you are tested for dysautonomia, not only are you going to have the diabetes test, but you're also going to have about another 16 to 18 vials of blood drawn to do all kinds of other tests, where they're testing to see if you have any other specialized disease that could trigger some of the symptoms I was having. I don't have any other diseases except for dysautonomia as far as they're concerned. And so just be prepared for being electrocuted a bit, being strapped to a table, being asked to breathe in and out, getting about 30 vials of blood drawn, being hungry, and being stabbed. So that's dysautonomia testing. It's not fun, and it's expensive. But I am incredibly grateful to Dr. Kimali and his entire team, despite how unpleasant the testing was. It's nice to finally have an answer. It's nice to finally know what's wrong with me. And it's nice to have, like, some things explained. Probably the hardest thing about being sick or not feeling good all the time is not knowing why. So again, I'm sorry guys that this video was a little long. Thank you everyone who watched it this far. Even if you didn't like the video, thanks. If you did like the video, you can give it a thumbs up. I hope maybe this helped someone who maybe be going to have dysautonomia testing done. I hope this maybe gave you a little bit of an idea. Please don't let, like, the way I described it discourage you from having the testing done. It is expensive and it does hurt, but I 100% feel like it was worth it. 100%. I don't even care that I have to pay for some of it out of my pocket because I'm just so grateful to have an answer. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more of me doing other things that are happier, you can subscribe to me. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!